Hey, how are you doing? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Andreas, and in today's video I'm going to review the 2019 US Poker Open final table that I just watched. I'm going to get into a key hand between Chris Hunichen and Tilston, and also going to show you what led up to David Peters' win. I hope you guys enjoy it. Just giving you some pointers, we're down to 6 players at this moment. Only 5 are being paid, $264,000 for 5th, about 1.3 million for first prize. And also, if you want to know all the details and the players involved here, check out my last video up here.
Undeterred by these people.
Pre-flop, Hunichen puts in a raise to 60,000, which is a min raise, and on first side it looks really loose with the king nine off, but you know, they're only 6-handed and the removal is really great on this hand. You block pocket kings, pocket nines, ace king, king queen, so a lot of these reshoving hands that Reese, Samani and Bonamon could have. And also, you know, it might be even better than pocket deuces, for instance, because if you have pocket deuces, you are blocking a lot of these so-called auto folds. What do we mean by that in no limit hold'em tournaments and no limit hold'em in general? Well, if you have a deuce, your opponent's going to have less likely a hand that's automatically folding. Like any hands that always almost folding, right, is a hand with a deuce in it. So if you have 2 of them, your opponent's going to fold less often. And also, you already have to consider raise calling against some of the shorter stacks, especially Bonamon with the 13 big blinds. So king nine offsuit, I think is perfectly fine here. With everyone else either rejam or folding most of the time. Wilson goes and makes the call with the 8-5 suited against his min raise, and we head over to the flop.
Well, 3-betting over the top of them as he is giving them credit for not doing so light. If they wake up with hands, so be it. But I'm going to put the pressure on them. As Tilston defended with the 8-5. Flop second pair against the gut shot straight draw.
60.
Uni C bets.
And the unrelenting opening is going to work even better as a couple of these players' stacks dwindle further.
Yeah.
I think Tilston will still play with him only because they're so deep. They're 50 big blinds plus deep. So they're not going to get into a 100 big blind pot together.
On the Jack 8-7 rainbow flop, Hunichen has a gut shot and an overcard. And regardless of the stack sizes, this will be a great candidate to see bet anyway. But in this case, he might even be betting almost his range because he's just got a commanding position here on the exact bubble. There's 6 left, 5 are paid here. So Tilston might have a lot less protection check raises going on here in this instance compared to, for example, a cash game or any other tournament spot. Also, Tilston goes in and check calls here with his middle pair, and they head over to the turn.
If they're playing well, but they can play a lot post-flop without getting all in. So I think Tilston has the least to lose. Some of these middle stacks have a lot to lose versus Uni right now.
Board pairs on the turn after Tilston check called. Really good card for him. Checks it second time.
Check.
The turn is the Jack of Diamonds, and whenever a card from the board hits, so on this Jack 8-7 flop and turns a Jack an 8 or 7, at least the out of position player can consider leading, because this improves the check caller's range quite a bit, because you're check calling with basically all the board pairs, if not even check raising with the best of it. But here Tilston goes ahead and checks to Hunichen, who also is not going to bet this turn very often. Usually people say that it's a scare card, but also in theory, if you run this, for example, with a sim, you will see that the in-position player is not going to bet very often on a turn, since a few combinations of his range will improve on this turn compared to the out-of-position check caller, who's got so many top pairs that he check call with on the flop.
Now Uni checks back. The third jack on the river. Even better for Tilston, just in case he had kicker issues. Be pretty tough to check and induce in this spot if you're Tilston. He's
I think
take his
instead
fate
he's
into his own hands.
targeting a 7 or an ace high. That might get sticky here. Really small bet.
how much A-side does Tilston have is what Uni might be thinking.
Hunichen, who doesn't really have a bluff catcher at this point, puts in the bluff raise to 375 here. And, I'm not sure what to make of it exactly. I do think it's, a decent candidate to mix in there because, you obviously can't win the hand. I think having a 9 and a king is actually quite okay. I do think it will make Tilston have a little bit more 7x and 8x, but I cannot be 100% sure because I don't know if Tilston has 7-9 offsuit, for example, as much as 9-8 offsuit, so it might tilt things a little bit. And then also, it is basically blocking pocket 9s, which Tilston really might take the same line with and would probably be somewhat near the top of Tilston's range, even though Tilston might still have some quads, of course, but 9s would obviously never fold. And then also, Hunichen might raise with anything that's an 8 or, all the pairs 9s through aces and obviously all the quads. And I think if that's the case, bluffing with a hand like King 9 offsuit is fine. It's really also kind of tough to see like how he's controlling his bluff frequency because he's obviously opening all the King 9s, right? So these are 16 combinations. If he has obviously all the other pairs in there, well, he's gonna have a bunch of value hands to get value from. And the question is, how many of his Queen 9, King 9 is he gonna be willing to bluff this way? Because these are probably the best picks that he did c-bet with on the flop, that he then checks back on a turn and then goes ahead and bluff raises the river with.
King?
Yeah, I don't like this bluff.
Well, is the problem, what are you selling?
Yes.
If you have quads, congrats.
10 seconds.
Do you ever have the overpair?
You do sometimes, but I just think this is like it's just not a great board texture to get Tilston to fold here.
Time extension.
Could be why he took this line. I mean, it's just Tilston feels like an idiot putting in with an 8 right now.
How relevant is the 9 in Uni's hand here?
I mean, yeah, it's just you're obviously blocking him having the straight, but I mean, this is just a weird, doesn't matter that much, I feel like, because you're now just repping quads or a pair in your hand over an 8.
Close your eyes and imagine the king of clubs is another 9, and suddenly this looks sensical.
Yep.
10 seconds.
Keith's initial reaction is, you're such a sicko.
Yeah, it's just...
And he picks it off.
Tilston ends up making the call with his 8 here. Folding at this point would be highly exploitable, and we can see here that Hunichen indeed did have a bluff, but in general in poker you don't want to be too results oriented here in this spot. If you also see that your opponent has a bigger board, you have to ask yourself, well, is this guy really capable of bluffing this spot? And if the answer is yes, well, you just cannot end up folding an 8 if there's a bunch of bluffs in there, especially because the base amount of combinations that Hunichen opened to begin with was probably rather high, them being in a 6-handed lineup. Like, let's say they were still 9-handed and the same hand occurred, I would be, pretty surprised if Hunichen found enough bluffs on this river, because he wouldn't have the King 9 offsuit, right? He would have had to go with like a Queen 9 suited or King 9 suited, or maybe King Queen or something like that, or Queen 10 suited, because he wouldn't really open with these types of hands. But because they were down to 6-handed, the ranges just change a little bit, and then it's more plausible for Hunichen to have some of these bluffs.
It's tough. So this is the only reason I said I don't really like.
It was really Hunichen's tournament to win, but then he lost a big all-in against David Peters. As you can see here, I think it was for about half the chips in play at this point, but the 6s of David Peters hold up Also later on, about 2 hours later, they get it heads up where Hunichen held the ace-8 offsuit against D. Peters 9s all in pre-flop. D. Peters holds and takes down the title and also the title of the series, winning the trophy of the US Poker Open and also 100,000 extra dollars for his efforts. I hope that you enjoyed this video of the 2019 US Poker Open. Let me know if the hand selection in your opinion was on point. How would you have played the two hands? I did believe that these were the two key hands for Chris Hunichen to win, and in the end didn't go so well, but you know, he finished up second. I'm sure he's not too sad about that. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe and the notification bell if you want to see some more videos on my channel. Thanks guys.